and welcome. It is February 14th, and we are here for a workshop about conversation projects, or as I like to call it, here's another name that I came up with, go talk to people. That's the name of this workshop. Go talk to people. My name is Allegra Stein. I think I know most of you. Some of you I've maybe only met once or twice. I'm Allegra Stein. I've been coaching since 2012. A few years ago, I started turning my energy towards helping and supporting and mentoring other coaches. I run a community called Misfit to Maverick. There are a number of Mavericks in the room. I see you and you're awesome. If the conversation that we're going to have today, there's going to be potentially a lot. This topic, as I was writing my notes down, aside from helping you all with your strengths, I love teaching this project. It is very actionable. And I am an activator. It is one of my top strengths. So this is like super, super actionable. And I believe it is one of the highest returns on your time, because your people will tell you everything you need to know. If you are feeling stuck, if you don't know how to describe your work, if you need ideas and inspiration, if you're not sure what to do next, if you're just sitting and you're like, what? You're kind of waiting for a lot of stuff. Actively creating a conversation project is a way to get into the world of your people and get re-inspired. So much can emerge on the other side of it. And I'll share some of those examples today. But just as I was again going through things, I was like, oh my gosh, it's really, really good. And I hope that all of you take something away from it. If at any time you're like, I need to go start this right now, I will not take it personally if you leave the call and go start your conversation project, because I am here to help you all get started and to turn these ideas into projects. So if you are in Misfit to Maverick, the conversation does not end at the end of this workshop. Bring those conversations back into base camp, post your questions, come to the next open coaching call and say, I want to do this. If you run a conversation project, obviously bring that back in and we'll help workshop what comes next. If you're not in Misfit to Maverick, not a problem. I hope that this conversation is of value to you too, though if you would like a place to continue to bring these ideas into life and get support and coaching and actually turning them into projects, I hope you'll consider joining us. It's an incredible group of people. And you can it's easy to find over on my website. Hi, Norris. Nice to see you. I know we're talking soon, so I'm glad you're here. Welcome, welcome. All right. So here's why coaching projects are really important. And the way that I'm going to do this is by drawing a picture. Some of you have seen this picture before. There are no fancy slides today, everybody. Here you are. Okay, here you are in the world out there. And as a coach, my pen's dying a little bit. As a coach, many of you have seen this, you are in a boat. Okay. And your boat has a bunch of sails on it. The sails represent all of the skills and things that you do to help other people. Okay. You help people go on a journey. And your sails are the tools that you use to help people go on that journey. The reason why I asked how long have you been coaching versus how long have you been helping people is you have a lot more sails than just the one you got in your certification. I know you all, many of you, maybe not all of you, have a certification, and it feels almost like the certification was the beginning of time, but it wasn't. You were doing lots of stuff before you were certified. So don't forget that. You know how to help people. Those of you that done your UMAPs and strengths with me, you really know how you help people in a way that comes very naturally to you. All of us in this room right now are all sitting on our boats, right? You can just look, you're in a room with what, how many people are here? 12, 13. Look, hi everyone, we're all on these boats. Isn't it so great? And that's why coaching communities are so nice to be in, because they're safe and we get it. We have a shared language. I can say, I'm a coach, and you can say, me too. And it's like, we don't even have to explain kind of what coaching is. I mean, we do, because even at the end of the day, we want to figure out how we're different and how we're unique and interesting. But just imagine us, we're all in this little bay and all our, I see you, I'm a boat captain, me too. But we're not the only part of it. Coaching bubbles are very nice and secure. And don't get me wrong, coaches need coaches. It's very possible that you want to help coaches do something, or we're all human. I'm a human who happens to be a coach. There's other stuff in my life that I could use help with. And maybe you have a boat that can help me do that. But if you want to help people who aren't coaches, which I find a lot of coaches do, there's a whole other part of this picture that's really important to remember. There are people out in the world, this person right here, okay, who aren't thinking about your boat. They don't know about our boats. They don't think about our boats. They're not interested in our sales necessarily. They are here on Island A, and credit to Tad Hargrave for teaching you. Maybe if you see his stuff, he talks about this a lot, A to B. They are on Island A, and they would like to go to Island B. That's what they want. They need help with something, right? They're not, some of them are maybe thinking about the boats. Some of them maybe know about the boats. I remember I went to a wedding once and I met 5 new people and someone said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm a coach." And like 4 people kind of went, "Oh," and kind of looked away. And one person was like, "Oh my God, I love coaching." All right, cool. Sometimes that kind of happens and that's great. But if you want to run your own coaching gig, which I suspect most of you do in some way, you want to run your own coaching gig. You don't want to go be a captain on someone else's boat. There are 2 important things that we have to learn how to do, that we have to start practicing. And I talk a ton about practice. It's what I'm out here trying to help, like start practicing. 1, we have to practice telling people we have a boat and explaining what it is. You meet someone like, "Oh, coach, what is coaching?" It gets stuck in our throat, right? Tell me about your boat. We have to practice saying, "I have a boat." It takes practice. It's really scary because some people might be like, "Oh, that's crazy that you have that boat." But we still have to practice saying it. We have to practice explaining what it is that we do. And there's another really important thing. Hi, Rachel. Saw you come off that camera. There's another really important thing we have to start practicing, and what a lot of this conversation is going to be about. We have to listen to the people on the island. We have to start listening to people out there. We have to ask them, "What's it like on this island?" We have to say, "What's the island you want to go to? What's in your way?" We have to get out of our heads, because here's the thing about coaching, and don't get me wrong, I do it too. We are really into our work. We think about it all the time. We love it. We love it. We talk about it. We think about it. We imagine it. There's a lot of imagining that goes on, right? Well, what about this? And what about that? But there's something very powerful that happens when we are willing to get out of this imagination, wondering, coaching bubble and into the world. It brings it back down into something tangible that we can work with. And it involves not just standing on our boats, looking around, but almost getting off of our boat and coming over here and talking to those people. Something very magical happens in that moment. And if we want to have our own gig, again, these 2 things are really important to practice. Talking about our work and explaining it to others, and also listening and responding to what we hear. I believe that conversations are the most fertile soil for stuff. I talk a lot about emergence. All of you in Misfit to Maverick, if you've been to my workshops, you have no idea what might emerge as a result of one conversation. And I'm going to give you some examples today. Let me start with one, actually. Let me start with an example. Actually, let me start with this example after. I'm going to just dive into the different types of conversations, because I think you're probably all like, "This is great, Allegra, but what kinds of conversations can we be having?" Because a conversation project can look lots of different ways. So I guess I'll come over here. There are 4 different kinds of conversations. Today, we're going to talk about 2 of them. The first kind of conversation project that you can run and start practicing is called an explanation conversation. Did I spell that right? Is there another I? I think I got it right. Rachel? No, you're probably wrong. Norris, I saw your thumbs up. That's great. Explanation conversations, all right? Your job in an explanation conversation project is to tell people what you do. It's to talk about yourself. It's to explain your coaching. Your job, explain what you do. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being like, not a problem, I've got it down, and 1 being like, I have no idea what words I would say, like, this is not comfortable for me. On a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you explaining to strangers you've never met before what you do, that you're a coach, how it goes? In the chat, 1 to 10. Six, cool. 7, 5, 7, awesome. 6, 5. Great. So we're averaging about 5, 6. 3, I fumble because I'm undecided. Awesome. There's no right number here. Okay. I guess I should back up just a little bit. I just realized this. A conversation project is you actively creating opportunities to talk with people. That's what a conversation, you deciding that you're going to go talk to people. It is not waiting for people to come talk to you. It is not hoping someone reaches out and says, can we talk about coaching? It's you going and creating it. That's what makes it a project. That's what makes it an experiment. You saying right now, I'm going to go find 5 people right now, and I'm going to practice explaining my work to them. Just to practice it. Okay. Another thing you can do in an explanation project is you can just describe your offer, describe your coaching. It's telling people, and I guess this would be kind of different category. It's telling people that you are a coach. Tell people that you coach. Do they know? Do the people in your life know that you even have a boat so that they can maybe go tell someone else? Now, one of the best places, and some of you might bristle at the thought of this, but it's a really good example of it. Here's where it's a great place to practice explanation conversations. A great place to practice explanation conversations is in networking groups. Oh my gosh. How do you feel about networking groups? In the chat, please share what comes up for you. And I'm like, networking groups. Networking groups. Are any of you in a networking group? You ever been a part of one? Love all the networking. Been there, done that. Ugh. I know, right? I will tell you, when I first started coaching, well, let me tell you the story of Lee. Lee is in Misfit to Maverick. Totally. Ugh. Here's the thing about networking groups. Networking groups are really interesting if you use them in a way that's going to serve you. Lee is in Misfit to Maverick. Lee works in creativity. She loves creativity coaching. She loves helping people with creative projects. She's an artist. She's awesome. And Lee tells this story, and it came up this past week. She's been in a networking group for, I don't know, 6 months maybe. And she will say, well, I've been going to these networking lunches. Okay, I'm going to go to these networking lunches. But here's something that's happened. When you join a networking group, here's why we don't usually like them. It's because we have to tell someone what we do. Because you go to these lunches, you get on these online calls, and we go around with, okay, tell everybody what you do. Oh my God. And we have to practice standing on our boat and saying, here's what I do. And you have to do it over and over and over again. And it's awkward and it's weird, but guess what? It's in the field. It's practicing explaining what it is that you do. What's happened with Lee's been going to networking groups now. She shared in one of our coaching calls last week that as a result of being in these networking groups, now she's really comfortable answering the question, what do you do? She knows she can experiment with lots of different answers, and she's starting to get known in her circle. People in that group now know that she is the coach that works around creativity. And they're out when they meet their friend who's like, oh, I'm just struggling with this project. Oh, you should talk to Lee. All right. So to answer your question, can you clarify if you mean within M2M or outside of the community or both? You mean networking, Abby? I mean, it's helpful. You can practice within Misfit to Maverick. We've done calls in the past where it's like, just practice talking about yourself. I should put another one on the calendar where we just get in rooms and we just go around practice talking about ourselves. But you can find these groups. You can, I suspect, just Google local networking group. There was one local to me that was, Julie, I'm just going to mute you really quick. There was one local to me that there you go. Thank you. Where I just joined and I had to pay to go to lunch every month, but I was essentially setting myself up to practice explanation conversations. I'm just looking at my notes. The thing about, I mean, you can set up explanation conversations today. If you do one thing as a result of this call, it's like you can go find 10 friends, 10 people in your life right now. Say, can I explain what I do to you, please? And just get it out. Are some of you like, no way, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I know, because it's really, really messy and it's really hard. And sometimes you find yourself in the paradox and the catch-22 of this work, which is that you kind of have to describe it before you've done it. This comes up a lot, or like you're trying to describe a cookie that you haven't even baked yet. But that's the, otherwise we're just floating in the bay, hoping that someone randomly shows up and says, so what is it you do? We take action and we start doing it. Can I share how I explain what I do? Oh, Sherry, it's an experiment every single time. Lately, I've been saying I love to work with and mentor and support new coaches. And then someone will be like, coaches? That's another thing. They'll be like, what do you mean? I'll be like life and health coaches, because people who aren't coaches get it. So I'll use the phrase, well, like life and health coaches. Oh, okay. And then the other day, some guy was like, who was it? Someone was here. He was I don't know where I was, but someone I'd never met before asked me what I did. And I said, oh, I love to support and mentor new coaches. Coaches said, yeah, like life and health coaches. Oh, my sister does that. Oh, cool. And that was it. That was the end of our conversation. But now it's like, oh, but I had to practice saying it. So explanation conversations are incredibly valuable. It takes practice to start sharing your work. I encourage you to do it as much as possible. If you're in Misfit to Maverick, you can go on and say, can someone get on the phone with me right now or in the co-working room right now so I can just practice talking about myself and just listen to one another. Any questions about explanation conversations? Because now we're going to move into the big kahuna, the interviews. Abby, go ahead.
Just really quick, can someone give an example of like a networking community that they've used outside of Misfit?
Sure. Is anyone
a specific example?
If you could share if anyone's part of any virtual networking groups, I would Google, Abby, online networking group, local networking groups. It's very Googleable to just find it. Anthony, Rachel has some. Rachel's in Misfit to Maverick, so you can reach her there. Great. Jill, BNI, Business Networking International is one. LinkedIn networking groups.
Okay.
But you have to remember, here's the thing about networking groups, and I'm not here to tell you to join a networking group. I'm just saying it is a place where you can practice this. That's the only reason I'm bringing it up. It might not be the right fit for you. And, there's no one right way to do it. But I'm just saying being in a networking thing forces you to explain yourself. It just does, because you show up in these rooms and people are like, so what is it you do? And it puts you in the work. Like it just is a start, but you can create these opportunities without joining anything. Just put a call out to people, can I practice explaining myself to you?
Okay. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Lots are on Facebook. Yeah, lots of different kinds, but it's just Anthony, and I need to find it. I don't think he's on this call, but Anthony has posted in Misfit to Maverick about, he's part of like a lunch club. Go on Misfit to Maverick and Google or look at the top search for lunch club. I think Anthony actually put a post up about it. I'll find it for you if you can't find it, but it's like where you just meet a random stranger on Zoom and you just show up at noon and you're both there talking. And it's creating, that's the point, creating opportunities to practice explaining yourself. Okay. Oh, lunch club is all coaches. Well, it's still good, Rachel.
I don't mean that as a bad thing. It's like, it's a really good way for coaches to connect. And it seems like a lot of coaches are drawn to that. I got matched with like 3 coaches in a row, and it was really funny.
You did one?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. All right. Here's the second kind of conversation. And this is the one that I think is just an incredible place to begin. And that is, there's explanation conversations. The second type are interview conversations. Interview conversations are incredibly important because what it does is it gets you off your boat and onto the island listening to the people. And your job in an interview conversations is to listen. That's it. It's to listen and stay curious and ask questions. I don't know if anyone can attest to this if you've experienced before. People want to be listened to. People want to be listened to. The person on Island A wants nothing more than for someone to walk up to them and say, how's it going? What's it like here? What do you wish was happening? What's in your way? And to just listen. So interview conversations are a gift to the person who you ask to interview. I really like putting that out there because it's like, well, I don't want to ask anybody because what if they, I don't. People want to be listened to. Irene's saying it. People have talked, we've talked to Misfits and Maverick, like someone could just create sessions called the listening sessions. I've created things called the listening walk, where all I do is just listen to someone. And at the end of 30 minutes, they're like, oh, thank you so much. Can we do this again? Because they just want to be listened to. So your job with interview projects is to listen and stay curious. Interview conversations are not about creating clients. The intention and the purpose is not to create a client. I can't emphasize this enough. I'm inviting you to embrace the paradox of coaching. The paradox is that the less we try, the less we hold on to or attach to like, but I need a client, the more likely we are to create one. Can anyone speak to that? Can you share in the chat? Like, the less attached we are to creating a client, the more likely we are to discover one and to have conversations where it leads to that. And so when I say interview conversation, go interview people today. Go interview people. Ask them what's going on with you. What do you need? And I'm going to give you some examples of this about where to start, but do it without attachment. Not, oh, this is how many great clients. No, you're going to do it just to listen and stay curious. Now, where to begin? I'm going to tell you what kinds of things to do in these projects, but the question is great. Who do I interview? Who is it that I talk to? There are 2 places that I think you can begin. Now, let's just start. The first place that you can begin, option 1, is to pick a topic or a problem that you are already interested in and find people who want to talk about that topic. Okay, start with a topic or problem. I'm going to reference Lindsay on this call. Lindsay is very passionate right now about supporting women and menstrual health. It's something she has personal experience with. She's been learning about it. She has ways to help it. She wants to support. She's incredibly passionate right now about supporting women on that journey who struggle with menstrual health and menses. If you follow Lindsay on Instagram, you will see that earlier this week, she put up a post saying, I am looking for people to talk to. I'd like to interview people who have struggled in some way with their cycle. Right? She's starting with the thing that she's interested in. Julie likes to work with people around building consistent exercise habits. Now, Julie, you ran a conversation project, right? Did you start with a topic or a theme or a problem?
No.
How did you? Go ahead.
How did I start? I asked where are you right now? I used the island A, island B metaphor, and I sort of explained it to him. And I'm like, okay, so what's your island A right now? And I just
Okay.
let that conversation sort of flow. But I didn't, I kind of wanted to let them lead the conversation and then let the questions come up organically and
Perfect.
I didn't really have anything prepared
Got
other than the illustration.
Got it. So Julie's an example. That's going to be the second way. Has anyone here? Yeah, Julie's shirt's great. If anyone on this call interested in a particular topic, problem, or theme, what would you love to interview people about? What would you type it in the chat? Jill, share with us. What would you if you're like, if I could interview people about this, it would be great. Jill, what would you like to?
Well, I have a million things. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Right now, when I leave this call, I'm going to put it out there though.
Okay.
I want to interview people that have some kind of experience with blended family, custody, something.
Okay. Awesome. So Jill I'd like to interview people around blended family and custody issues. So she's starting with a topic or a problem. Anybody else have a topic or a theme? It's okay if you don't. If you're like, I don't know, it could be anything. That's not a problem. But I'm just curious. You can start there. Food. Rachel wants to interview and talk to people about food. Rachel, you could get more specific about that if you wanted. You could be like your relationship to food, struggle. Is it struggle with food, love food, right? So, or there might be some qualifying words or verbs or adjectives around that would help someone be like, cool. Oh, that's me or that's not me. Postpartum challenges. So Abby wants to interview people who are postpartum. Here's the thing about this. If you go this way, if you go the way of the topic or theme, you might have to have a project before that where you find those people. That's the catch. The catch, if you want to interview people about a specific topic or problem, is you then have to go find the people. Right? It's like, cool, where are people at? Well, I don't know anyone. Well, then the runway might be a little bit longer. Might be a little bit longer if you're going to start with a problem, but you don't yet know anyone with that problem. Irene, surviving the deep grief of loss of children. Oh, so powerful. All these things are so important. So this is cool. I want to go talk to those people. I want to talk to someone. How are you going to find them? That might be the next project. Again, you can bring those things. These are the kinds of things we can talk about. So Jill, Abby, Rachel, like in Misfit to Maverick, we can brainstorm. Where could you go find them? Sometimes it's groups somewhere. Maybe you're already part of a group. Because the second place to start, if you don't have a topic or theme, is to pick a group of people that you're already a part of. Pick groups that you already can go and invite people to today. All of you are part of groups somewhere. Jill, this is a perfect reverse example of this. Jill is interested in a topic, but guess what? Jill is also a real estate agent. And she has a huge network of real estate agents that she could, if she wanted to, start with the group she's a part of and just go say, I want to interview 50 real estate agents. And she would probably get a lot of people that would be like, sure, I'll give you 20 or 30 minutes. Abby has mentioned many times being parts of women's groups. They might not all be postpartum, but she's part of women's groups. So she could go and say, I just would like to interview as many of you as possible. What other groups? Are any of you part of some groups? Could be anything. And then I'm going to give you an example because I bet you're a part of a group that you don't even realize. What groups are you already in? Either in person, and by group, it doesn't have to be like a formal group. It could just be like a population of people. Maybe you're in maybe you used to have a job in corporate and you're in a bunch of HR communities on LinkedIn. What are some groups that you're already a part of that you could go out and interview some of them today? Yoga class, people in book clubs. Maya's in all these mom groups, right? There's people, Maya could go right now and interview 10 moms and say like, what do you need? Or just listen. And I'm going to tell you what to talk about in these conversations. But what I want to give you now is like, well, where to even begin? AARP, incredible. Irene, there are a number of coaches that I've worked with who love working around retirement. I know how vibrant you are and how much you want to really bring people at that space in their life into a place of fun and exploration. Disgruntled nonprofit workers, right? Norris, you could go interview them right now. Can I interview you? All right, let me give you an example of this. Here's an example. This came up just a couple weeks ago. There's a coach in Misfits and Maverick. His name is Anthony. And a couple weeks ago, we had a quick little laser session. Anthony has a background as a chef. I bet you all have backgrounds as something. He's a skilled chef. He works as a chef. He's very connected in the restaurant industry. And for a variety of reasons, he's also really interested in personal health. And so he got certified as a health coach. Okay. He has a certification as a health coach. He's got that new sail on his boat. And we got on this call and he's like, yeah, I just see, in the restaurant industry, there's just a lot of stress. He sees what's happening in this community he's already a part of, but he's sitting there going, but I'm a health coach. I don't know what to do because, I don't know how to tie these two things together. So you can see what happens. We get our certifications, we get into our head. We're just thinking about our coaching all the time. And how do I talk about my coaching and this and that? And I said, Anthony, one, you don't have to tell anybody you're a health coach if you don't want to. You don't have to lead with, I'm a health coach now. He's like, oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds good to me. And I said, do you know anybody now, right now, today, that you could call and just ask them about stress in the restaurant world? And I will tell you what, within a second, he went, yeah, I know exactly who I'd call. It was like something completely shifted in him. And I said, what if you just called that person and asked them, interviewed them about their level of stress? I am telling you, and some of you guys have seen this if you've seen it in base camp, he's come back to share his progress. He got off that call. He immediately made a call to a friend of his in the restaurant industry and said, hey, I'm really interested in talking about stress. And this guy yes, we need this. This is so important. Invited Anthony to come meet with a group of chefs on Tuesday evening. Anthony showed up. As he reflected on this experience, he said, I found myself, I wanted to try and give them the solution, but I just listened. I just listened to these people talk about what's happening. And at the end of it, I said, hey, do you guys want to do this every month maybe? And now he has a monthly group of coaches, of chefs he's meeting with to provide support to and to listen to and maybe create a program. I don't know what's going to happen. But when he turned to the groups he's already in, all of a sudden something really just amazing emerged out of it. What are you hearing in this? I've been talking a lot. What's coming up? What are you hearing? What is there potential? Is there possibility? Is there a new idea maybe? Anyone willing to share? Anyone willing to either to raise their hand and share in the room something they're hearing, a question you might have? There's a need in front of our face. There is. There is a need in front of your faces, but and listen, I believe that really fun coaching is an intersection between what you love most and what people need. And you can start from either place. If you are incredibly passionate about doing something, get out there and do it. Start telling people you're doing it, explaining it, talking to people, fielding their questions, and start shining your light. And at the same time, you can be interviewing and talking to people and finding out what they want and noticing where those two things mesh. What is the mix between what you love, your gifts, your strengths, doing it your way, right? Bringing your quirks in and responding to what it is that people are out there saying. Oh, it's so easy to overcomplicate it. Let me just check and see if there was anything else I wanted to share. And then I'm going to tell you what you're going to do in these conversations, in these interviews. It's going to be, you'll see. Let's see. Oh, this was one other thing that I put down on this page that I just wanted to share. Having a conversation project, always going, I'll never forget this. Bryn, she told this story about, she came up with this great language where, because it's like, well, how do you invite people to be in it? And she used the phrase, and I'll type it in the chat. I'm collecting others' ideas about, and I forget what it was. I think it was about motherhood. I'm collecting ideas about. I would like to hear your ideas about postpartum life. I would like to hear your ideas about menstrual health. I would like to hear your ideas about working out consistently. I would like to hear your ideas about, sharing custody. That was like that's a script. You can take that. I'm collecting ideas about. Okay. So I'd love to talk to blank. So maybe it's a combination of a group and a topic. So, Norris might say, I really want to talk to disgruntled nonprofit workers about stress. Great, but you can kind of combine them, right? But either way, you can start with one or both of these. Any questions about this before I share what to ask about and how to lead these interviews? I'm also going to reshare the collage. Please take a moment and share your biggest insight so far on our collage so that we have a beautiful visual representation of our biggest insights from our call today. Thank you, Sherry, for humoring my sense of humor about the collage. I see you laughing and it's making me just feel lovely, so thank you. Okay, what to do during these conversations? Here we go. Because then someone's like, all right, cool. I've reached out to these people. I've had a couple of someone, they said, yes, I'm happy to be interviewed by it. But what do I ask them? Well, guess what? I am not going to tell you what questions to ask. And the reason that I'm not going to tell you what questions to ask is because that is for you to figure out by going out and doing it. Now, what I am going to tell you is what questions you want to be able to answer at the end of your conversation with someone. Okay? So this is what you want to listen for and what you would like to, just what you want to kind of have your satellite dish up when you are in conversation with someone. So Jill finds someone who wants to talk about custody. She gets them on the phone. Here are some things that you are listening for in your calls. What to listen for. 1, do you feel drawn to that person? Do you want to keep helping them? Do you feel drawn to them? Do you want to help them? When you're talking to this person, are you like, oh my God, I really want to help them? You're just feeling, you're not, you're kind of just listening. Do I want to help them? Why? Why or why not? Why are you drawn to them? Why aren't you drawn to them? Because here's something that happens when you start having conversation with people. You realize who you don't want to work with. Not because they're not an awesome human, but because you're just like, this is not a fit. Why or why not? You get off that call. What about that person did I like? What are the values of that person that I just spoke to? Ooh, those of you who've done values work know how important this is. What are the values of the person you just spoke to? Jill, go ahead. The only reason I can see Jill's hand, by the way, is because she's at the top of my screen. If you've been raising your hand and I haven't seen you, it's because I don't have the gallery on. So click raise hand on the bottom. Go ahead, Jill.
That's a great example for my topic. Is values alignment's a big deal to me in this space, and that's okay. Like, I think some of my certification was that I wasn't allowed to have an opinion. But I can, because I could not coach in this space if there was a values alignment. If someone hates, in my example, and I'm getting this straight in my head as I'm talking, if someone absolutely hates their ex more than they want to care about the children, that's not a fit for me.
Huh.
I will want to. So it's so good that you brought that up, because I think you've brought it up before, and it made a big deal to me that we can have an opinion.
That's right.
We might not go, oh, you shouldn't do this, but I can say, you're not a fit for me.
That's right.
Right.
And sometimes we don't know who's not a good fit until we've talked to a bunch of people. So go talk to a bunch of people. And if you're lucky, if you talk to 30 people, if you're lucky, 15 of them will not be a good fit. And when you hang up, you're going to say, why not? Values misalignment, different stage. They have a problem I don't want to solve. Here's another thing you want to listen for. What is their problem? If you can find a problem that you're in love with, that's a great thing. If you can find a problem you love help solving, it's great, because then you can be like, hey, I've got this boat. Who's got this problem? I love helping with this problem. I understand it. I've been through it. I've solved it for myself. So listen when you're talking with people and you're just listening. What is the problem that they have? You want to listen for what I call magic words, or if you're musical, song lyrics. These are the words that people repeat over and over and over again. If you have a sense of it, what are some of the words that your people repeat? What are the song lyrics of your people? If you know any, share it in the chat, would you? Belief systems hide in their words. 100%, Irene. Does anyone know any song lyrics from their audience? Have you done this? I bet Norris could tell us. What are disgruntled nonprofit workers always saying? What do they say when they're a little bit buzzed? What do they say when they think no one's listening? Not what do you think they say? It's not what you think, it's what you've heard them say. I have to get back on track. Oh, just fallen off track. Julie works in the space of consistency and habit building around movement. I heard the phrase, I don't want to be a clone, when I first started working with coaches. We are here today because I had a conversation project, though I didn't call it at the time. When I had this idea, I'd like to work with coaches. I'd like to help coaches. So guess what? I had to go find coaches to interview, because I hadn't been in the world of coaches for a long time. I'd been coaching for a long time, but I wasn't in any coaching communities. I was just out there doing my thing. So first I had to go find communities of coaches to become a part of again. And then I had to find people who I could interview. And I heard twice in 2 interviews on the same day, I feel like I'm becoming a coaching clone. Magic words, lyrics. And guess what I did? I created a workshop called How to Not Be a Coaching Clone. They told me what they wanted, so I made something for them. That's the kind of thing that can emerge when you start talking to people. I asked my doctor about a major symptom. They said not to worry about it, right? So you're listening for magic words. You're listening for how they describe Island A and Island B. This is a very easy starting point. This is what Julie did. Julie was like, I kind of just want to interview people. Well, guess what she did? She said, so what's going on now? And just listen. People will tell you. It might take, they need, if they're just meeting you, maybe they need to try. I get it. You be kind, but you're not trying to get clients. This isn't about getting clients. You're just listening. What's going on now? What's working? What's not working? What do you wish was happening? Ask them to tell you what they want. Ask them to tell you what's in their way. What are their roadblocks? Have them tell you this stuff, because this is where I get just so amped up about this, because I am telling you, so much happens when you get this stuff in your hands. And all you have to do is go find some people who will sit with you for 20 or 30 minutes and just talk to you while you ask them questions. Are there questions about what kinds of things to ask? Again, I'm not telling you what questions to ask, and that's intentional. You're all coaches. Inquiry is a part of our job. Listening is a part of our job. Practice listening. So you're going to find your own way. But if at the end of those conversations, you can answer some of this stuff, you will have so much more to work with. I see coaches all the time. We keep trying to figure it out by ourselves. We just sit out on the bay, just sitting there wondering, what could I do? How could this work? What do they need? What are they saying over there? I don't know. Go find out. Questions?
How has this changed for you during COVID? If you're doing things more virtually versus in person?
It's just virtual. Yeah. That's what COVID pushed a lot of us creators and service providers to figure out how to create experiences that are virtual. I mean, I think about like massage therapists. I don't know if any of you know massage therapists who do body work. Abby does dance work. Like it's a big creative leap. How do you go from being in a circle with 5 to 10 women leading a dance break to being on a Zoom call? It pushes creativity to the limit, but it's just another variable we've got to work with. But yeah, it's about finding virtual ways of connecting and using Zoom a lot. Other questions about what you're doing, why you're doing this? I mean, is about what to ask, about what the purpose is, what happens in these calls. Sherry.
I was getting my questions ready, or I wanted to post something to LinkedIn or Facebook or something, or email. I'm not sure what to do at this point, but I didn't know if it would be helpful to have a survey as well. And then I get caught up in the details, like, do I say I'd like to have a conversation or fill out the survey below, or, I don't want to make it confusing. And so
I think it depends on how busy you are. So Jean is an example of someone who did this. She likes to work in the space of retirement, or at the time she wanted to do a conversation with people in retirement. She was a part of some pretty big retirement communities on Facebook that were very, very active. Mm-hmm. And so she asked people to fill out a form. And then from that, she scheduled interviews because she knew she was likely going to get a lot of feedback. I suggest cut to the conversation as quickly as possible, especially if you're not, and I'm not suggesting none of us are busy, but if our coaching calendars aren't particularly full right now, if like the time you do have for coaching is still kind of spacious, even if it's just an hour a week, I would, there's something to be said about going out and saying, I'd love to interview people about blank. Mm-hmm. Can you offer 20 minutes? Or I'd love to hear your ideas about blank. You can also use the phrase, I'm doing some research about blank. I'd like to research. That's other kind of just language you can use.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
So it kind of depends. You can test it out. You can try putting the survey, and if no one answers, you can put the call out.
Mm-hmm.
Does that help?
Yep, it does. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. So let me tell you really quick. So I'm here, by the way, I should have set this up at the beginning. I have set aside 90 minutes for this workshop. So I'm here until 1:30 and I will take as many questions, but I also acknowledge if anyone has to leave at the top of the hour. I just want to capture some final notes just to get out there, and then we can go in any direction that you guys would like. Here's what is possible when you start doing this. Okay. Again, I talk about this idea of emergence a lot. If you are willing to start interviewing people, if you are willing to get out there and start listening, a lot of things happen. Here's what emerges. And it's incredible. Anthony was one example of emergence. Like he just reached out to one person, listened, and now he's actually hosting a monthly workshop for these people. As a result, what could emerge? Content ideas. I'm not a huge fan of the word content. It is a buzzword, but we're not redefining buzzwords in this workshop. That was the last one. I am telling you, you go interview somebody, you will hang up that call and you will have ideas for a post you can make, a podcast you might record, an essay you might write. It's going to tell you what to go put out into the world. Because you're just going to be listening. And they're going to be like, I'm so stressed, I can't sleep. Blah, blah. And you're going to be sitting there going, oh my gosh, I'm going to write something about how to sleep. Okay. Your point of view, as a result of all of that, your point of view is going to emerge because you're going to be sitting there listening and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I know. Here's a good question you could ask is like, what advice have you been given? So Maya maybe goes and interviews all these moms and they're struggling with identity and, what advice have you been given? And they're going to start telling her and she's going to go, oh God, I hate that advice. And guess what? Because she's got a point of view about it. So that becomes stuff that she can create. Maybe as a result of these interviews, you go create a workshop in response to all these things that people have now told you. One of the things another project that I like to help people with is to set a date, time, and place. Norris goes and he interviews all of these nonprofit people that he knows, and they're all talking about how stressed out they are and they can't get away from work. So maybe he goes and creates a workshop, says how to get away from work. Again, not knowing a lot about Norris's work, but it's an example of how you can take this and turn it into something that you then invite people to. A solution to the stuff that you've heard out from these people out in the world. Maybe you create a coaching offer. Maybe it inspires your next coaching offer because of what you've heard these people want. You create something for them. You create relationships with people. You create an audience of people. All these people that you interview become the people that you can circle back to and say, thank you for the inspiration. Thank you for helping me. Look what I made as a result of it. Thank you. Look what I've done now as a result of it. They're your first audience. Rachel put down, oh, this one is so big. It's so big. You get language. To describe what you do, what you help people with. You get their words. As a result, and this is just an example of things you might get, and this is a really important note, but I'm gonna share this, but it's really important that you remember the paradox. I believe that clients emerge out of conversation projects. I really do, but not because I'm planning on it. Not because I'm planning on it. Thank you, Fleur. We're talking soon. Clients emerge out of conversation projects, which kind of gets to these notes, because here's what happens. I'm going to tell you what happens. Let's say today you go out and you find 15 people that you can interview. That'd be awesome. Like, go interview as many people. Fill your calendar with interviews over the next 2-3 weeks. Here's what happens when you start listening to people. You get someone on the phone. You start asking them, tell me about what's going on with you. How's it going? Right? Maybe, again, lots of examples here, but you start asking people to tell, you just listen. You just listen. You just listen. You're listening. You're noting it. Maybe you're taking some notes. You're noticing, if you like, what all these things about, wow, okay, magic words. And at the end of those 30 minutes, you go, thank you so much. And they go, oh, thank you. This has been great. And then here's another thing, that they don't all do this, but sometimes they do. Do you help people with this? Is this what you do? Do you help people with this? And you say, well, yeah, I'd like to. Maybe it's that I'd like to. Yeah, I'm really passionate about helping people in the space that you're in. Would you like some help with this? That's it. Both yes and no are perfect answers, but it would, yeah, this is like, yeah, I would like some help with this. Thank you so much for listening. And then you can say, well, let's set up another time to talk. And it leads maybe to a discovery call, into a coaching partnership. I think, and I think we can create clients by reaching out and asking if we can interview people. I really do. It's happened to me. I will tell you right now that I just hired someone who started a conversation project. I saw an Instagram post and I was like, oh, I want to talk. And I knew it was happening. I knew exactly. I mean, I don't think they planned on it. They wouldn't call it that, but they just like, I'm looking to talk to people about blank. And I was like, well, that's me. I'd like to talk to this person. And I reached out, and over the course, he just asked me questions. And I just was like, by the end of it, I was just like, I want to help with this. And he wasn't trying to get a client. At the end of the day, he wasn't even like, it was really just a research project. But I got off that call and I'm like, that was a conversation project at work right there. And without even trying now, we're continuing the conversation. We're going to now shift into a different kind of conversation, but it's very possible for clients to emerge out of that. Okay, it's time for questions. Welcome. I see that Joanna Miranda. Joanne, I hope I know Joanne's here. I'm happy to see you. I know we're maybe towards the end of the first chunk of this, but what I'd love to do now is open it up to questions. I would love to know what's surfacing for you. What is keeping you right now from going out and creating a conversation project? What is it? What's back there? What's now lingering? What can I help with?
I have a couple things.
Great, Maya.
Both of which I've sort of like been percolating in my mind, and I can kind of talk myself out of them, but I think I'll just throw that. I'd love to hear your thoughts too, and I'm sure other people will have ideas, but blah, blah, blah. Two things. One is like a fear of like picking one thing and it being the wrong thing, like not letting myself, backpedal or change my mind or have like something that's flexible. Like, oh, like maybe I'll start here and give myself the openness that it could evolve to be something else. It's like, I feel like I have to be married to that first thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one is about like groups that I'm in. And I think this is connected to that idea of like, it is not about getting clients, it really is about like, help me. Like I need help collecting ideas, that I feel like afraid of being perceived as like salesy or like pushy or like I'm taking advantage of, for example, these mom groups that I'm in is like, I keep meeting up with people and it's like, oh, I'm a health coach and personal trainer. And they're like, ooh, I'm like, oh, but I'm just here to make friends with you. I just need mom friends right now. It's like, how do I walk that line?
Well, I don't know if that line is yours. I don't think you have to figure out that line. I think we worry a lot about what other people are going to think. And sometimes I tell myself, if we get into that, we'll never do anything. I think where it starts is you being really just certain for yourself. Like, I'm just doing some research. I'm doing research. I'd like to research more. I'd like to learn about more. I'd like to hear other people's ideas about. Right. And so I'm not quite sure if that's answering the second part of your question very well, other than that just might be something that we have to clear up, and kind of be like, listen, you have an incredible boat, Maya. You have an incredible boat. And you have incredible sales. I know this. And you've also just been through an incredible life experience where you are now taking all the sales and applying them to yourself. And now you can really go on to it. And you wanting to understand what other people need better is in no way in conflict to you being in integrity of just wanting to connect with and hear about people's experiences. Thank you, Jill. Go take some action right now. I don't take it personally. If any of you are like, I have to go start a conversation project right now, bye. Not a problem. Maya, does that help? Is Maya even still here? She's like, I'm going to ask.
Yeah,
him.
sorry.
Yeah, there you are.
I was nodding, but yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see you.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like the word like non-attachment is coming up. Like
it's huge.
Not attached to this becoming truly not attached to this becoming anything. And if you want to seek me out or my thing or my help or get on my boat, great. Yes.
100%. Non-attachment is the game. Non-attachment is the paradox. Non-attachment is the paradox. is just doing it because you're curious and doing it because you want to talk to people. But it's challenging, right? Because we're like, but I also really would love people to get on my boat. I know. But it's like the less we want people on our boat, the more it's so weird. I'm sure you've all experienced this in some way or the other. I hear it all the time. Coaches who like just stop trying to figure it out so hard and they just start talking to people and all of a sudden things start happening. I also really quickly, I want to say hi to Joanne and Candy. I'm not sure if you knew, we did start at 12 Eastern, which was an hour ago, but I see you here. The replay will be sent out and you can ask as many questions as you want for the next 24 minutes. I'm happy to review anything, but I'm really happy to see you both here. No worries at all. It's all good. Maya, for the first thing, I mean, you know what I'm going to say to that. You can change it anytime you want. You just have to pick something to start with. Just pick something to start with. It's just about starting and giving yourself permission to change if you want to. It's like opening up a bakery where you sell cookies and then suddenly taking a class where they teach you how to make like ice cream and being like, oh, shoot, now I really want to make ice cream. Well, guess what? You can. You don't have to run a bakery with cookies your whole entire life. There are ways to shift that and move it and integrate it and worry about that later. That's my answer to that. Worry about that later. Don't let it keep you from starting now. That's right. It's who you want to help for now. Just pick and start. Pick and start, pick and start, pick and start. You should write a song. It's a great song. Julie, ukulele, please, pick and start. Along with our... All right, other questions. I am going to really quickly post the Jamboard. Candy and Joanne, we use something called a Jamboard. This might help you too. People have been capturing, I hope. Let me check it out. Whoa, look at that beautiful Jamboard. Please share your big takeaways on our Jamboard if you haven't yet. What do you want to remember? What do you want Candy and Joanne to know from the first part of our conversation? Capture it on a Post-it. It's very helpful for you and for everyone who gets a chance to see it. Sherry, did you have your hand up again?
I do. So
hi, great.
I'm wondering, because I want to be clear that this is, well, okay, I have a couple questions actually, I'm realizing. I want to be clear that it's not a sales pitch. It's not a sales call. I'm just going to be listening.
Mm-hmm.
But I suspect that I'm going to hear things that I'll want to help with.
Yes.
And I don't want to say this is not a sales call, but then think, oh, based on all of this, I'm now going to create a workshop. I want those people to know, but I don't want them to be like, okay, now you're hassling me about this workshop. I thought you were just going to listen, which I know is kind of a dumb fear, but like, I want to follow up with people in a way that's really going to help them and not without feeling weird about them being concerned that it turned into something else.
Can I just kind of walk through what comes up in my brain about how to navigate this?
Yes.
Okay. And it's kind of like, it's a little role play, but just go with it because I've been here. So you put something out there. What's something you want to talk to people about, Sherry?
I want to ask them what's holding them back from getting what they really want. So it's primarily corporate people because I was one.
Okay, great. So that's a little more specific. Awesome. So people in corporate who aren't doing what they want.
Yeah. Who are just kind of going through the motions of life. They're in the daily grind. And
daily grind's a really good phrase, by the way.
Okay.
Magic words right there. Daily grind. Use that. Who feel like they're stuck in the daily grind. That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
So Miranda's kind of got it. So you put something out there. You get some people who are like, yeah, I'll talk to you. Sure. I'd like to be interviewed. So let's say you got 5 people. I don't know, 10, as many as you can get, as many interviews. Interview people all the time. I love talking to coaches, whether we work together or not. I love hearing from coaches. What are you working on? How's it going? Because it helps me know all of you, right? So keep conversation projects alive all the time. Always have one to invite people to. Even if your coaching practice gets totally booked up, when it does, always just have a conversation project going and talk with people and listen. So Sherry's gets 5 to 10 people who are willing to talk with her. Sherry, you get on these calls. You're like, so I'd love to I just want to hear about this. You ask them about Island A, Island B, right? And at the end of it, you say, thank you. And maybe during some of those calls, you're like, oh my gosh, I could help them. Oh my gosh, I could help them. Oh my gosh, I could help them. A couple of things could happen. First of all, you have so much of this is about being improvisational. You got to improv. There have been conversation projects I have had where I am talking to someone and I am just like, I really want to help you. I just want to let you know. And I just say it. I just say it. But I say it from a place of like, and we don't ever like it both yet. There's someone, this phrase, both yes and no are perfect answers. It's kind of like the person who tells you they want to take you on a date, but you know they won't care if you say no. I don't know how to explain it. That's the feeling where like someone's just like, I really like you. And if you'd like to go out, I'd love to go out with you. But if you don't, that's totally fine. And you just feel it. And you're like, wow, that was so nice. And no, thank you. I'm no thanks, but wow, that's the like, I've done that before. I've been so inspired by someone during our very first time talking that I will say that, but then I'll say, I just want to let you know if it ever feels right, just let me know. That's option one. But let's say it's just option two, which happened to me with this person I talked to last week, is at the end of it, you can be like, do you want help with that? Both yes and no. I'm just wondering, like, are you looking for help with that? That can be part of your interview. Have you ever hired anyone to help you with this? Do you want help with it? Right. So you're just kind of, because you don't have the expectation, you're really just asking from a place of curiosity. And then here's the third thing. So then you say thank you and goodbye. You get off the call with these 5 to 10 people. You're like, I'm going to create a workshop. Every single one of them told me how they're having a hard time sleeping. I want to create a workshop to help people sleep better. You set a date, time, and place. Right? March 3rd at 10, I'm going to do it. Workshop, how to sleep. You send an email to all those 5 to 10 people and you say something like this. Thank you so much for the conversation we had. As a result, I was inspired to create this workshop. Thank you. I want to extend the invitation for you to come. Both yes and no are perfect answers.
That's so good. Yeah.
And that's it. And it's clean and it's nice and that's it. And it's not attached. And the reason it's not attached is because of how I feel, how you feel about sending that email, right? I don't know how someone's going to receive it. It's not my business how someone receives it. I can only get really clean on how I send it. And I have to, when I say both yes and no are perfect answers, I mean it. I mean it from like my feet. And I think people get it. So that's my thoughts on that, Sherry. Does it help? I don't know if that kind of like brass tacks is helpful.
That helps a ton. Thank you.
You've got this. That's it. Ask people what they want, make something for them, invite them to participate. Notice what happens.
Actually, I do have a second question. So I also, at the same time, I want to start just having coffee and inviting people to just come talk. So I could just do that too and say, hey, if you just want to come. And I was actually going to invite, because oftentimes what I have heard, but not in such a structured yet unstructured way, like not as productive of a way, I should say. That's how it is. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, well, I want to do this, but I just don't have the money to do it. So then they just stay, doing the same thing. So I invited a friend of mine who's a financial advisor, who is very value oriented and wants to manage people's assets based upon their values. We're trying to figure out how we could work together. So we're going to have coffee someplace. And I was just going to send out an invite and say, hey, if you want to have coffee with me and my friend, I've heard people say money is usually a challenge. So we're just going to listen.
That's it.
Okay.
We'd love to talk. I'd love to hear your thought. Here's some other phrases. We'd love to hear your thoughts about. I am collecting ideas from others about. I am doing some research about. I'd love to listen to you share your story about. Just be human.
Yeah.
It's so right. It sounds like when I say it, I'm not trying to be condescending or like, I'm just,
no,
it's true, because I have to remind myself of these things too.
Right.
That like it's just, that's the catch. That's the secret. I truly believe this. And for Candy and Joanne who came in late, we have to start talking to people is the way out of stuckness, out of lack of inspiration, out of not knowing what to do, out of not having the words. I don't know what words to put on this. How do I describe it? I don't know. Ask people. Ask people, and they will tell you. We do, but there's something that happens when we get into certification programs and these and coaching bubbles, which I love. Misfit to Maverick is a coaching bubble, and I love it. But I am invested in helping all of you bust out of it, right? That's why I'm like, use it so that you can go out there and talk to people, because that's where the magic is. Because there is this. Because to hear, I don't know how to describe it other than someone reached out to me on Instagram last week and said, what do you do when you get stuck? And she's been coaching for a few years. She has a pretty clear audience she wants to work with. Things were really going well, and now it's kind of slowed down. And so for those of you on this call who've like been coaching for a bit, maybe you're feeling uninspired or a slump, guess what I'm going to say? Go do a conversation project. Go find some new people to talk to, because there's nothing like talking to someone else to get us out of our heads and into their world. Tatum, how long do you do the call with people for? No worries, Abby, whatever you need. You know, the recording will be posted. You can bring all this back and whatever you need. Tatum, I'll set aside on my calendar 45 minutes, but I'll say to them 20, and I'll kind of gauge it when I get on. It depends. You can play with it. You can say 60 minutes. Sometimes at the beginning of those calls, I'll say, how much time do you have? And if they're like, I only have 20 minutes, I'll be like, okay. And we'll just kind of get through as much as we can. That's where some of the improvisation comes. I find more often than not that when someone has set aside a 20-minute window, they usually have time afterwards, or they want to keep talking. So I just try and, also, I think it's easier for people to say yes to a 15 or 20-minute call, right? You can it doesn't feel as like, oh gosh, an hour with this person, because especially if they've never met you before. So I usually say, if I'm really interviewing, I'd love to gather ideas about blank. I would love to talk to postpartum moms about blank. 20 minutes, it's a nice time that people usually are able to be like, yeah, I can do 20 minutes. But then when they're talking to you, and Abby's on the phone with one of these women who's like, oh my gosh, here's someone who's listening to me, who understands what it's like to be postpartum. It's like, they just want to keep talking, and that's fine. And you just listen, and they will tell you everything, not because it's bad or manipulative, but because people want to be listened to. Other questions? We still have 12 minutes, lots to come through. I'm going to share again, just for the sake of time. For those of you here, this, obviously there will be a recording. So the first chunk, I'll make sure that it gets sent out. If you end up taking action on this, obviously, if you're in Misfit to Maverick, please come and share what happens. Please bring these into the open coaching calls for continued workshopping. If you're like, I need more help, that is what we are here for. If you're not in Misfit to Maverick, consider joining. It's an incredible place. Like, we'd love to continue supporting you there. And at the very least, if you end up doing a conversation project, please email me back and tell me what happened. Please, I'm not hard to find. You've seen me in your inbox. Just click reply. They all come to me. I'm sitting here in my office, eager to hear from all of you. So please say, I did it. This is what's happened. This is what's emerged. So I just want to put that back out there again. But what other questions are there? And Candy and Joanne, if even, I know you weren't here, but if something surfaced for you, it's kind of a nice spacious time right now. So if there are any other questions, please, you can raise your hands, click below. How can I help?
I just have a comment, Allegra. It's so funny how when I was in the corporate world, I was always, we would have meetings about, okay, what is this group thinking? Or what is this team thinking? And I would always say, has anyone talked to them? Can we just ask them? I mean, it just seems so obvious to me. And here I am trying to figure out what people are thinking without asking them. I don't understand what exactly happened between then and now. I don't know if it's like a coach mindset, like we feel like we should know.
There might be some of that. I hear a lot of like, I need to present as knowing. Sometimes you're like, got to be the expert. It needs to be perfect. There's a lot of messaging, like develop your program first. Like, this is this right here, this moment, if I can help all of you start talking to people, that is like people, and I wrote this down on my notes. These projects, it's very small, but I'll show you. It's also what we're avoiding. I don't know what it's like. We're avoiding talking to people. You know how we avoid it? We build websites and we develop programs and we figure out marketing and we try and do all the stuff. And we just trying to not talk before, because if I just figure all that stuff out, then I will talk to people. That's been the kind of the premise from the beginning of what I do, is like, if I just figure all this out, if I just do all these things, then I'll talk to people. And I'm trying to help reverse engineer it, because nothing is more fertile than just talking to people now. Go find some people to talk to. And I'm going to tell you, you know, people. Is anybody interested in how to have hope in the face of a brick wall? It's very interesting, Irene. So here's a really interesting thing. I would be very curious. So I'm going to just, if I can be frank, when I'm like, I'm not sure what that means. So that, like, this is a really interesting place to play with language. Like, well, what is it that actually, if I was to put a phrase out there, you know, how can I get more specific with my language? And sometimes we don't know until we listen to people.
Okay. Well, hope is, it's sort of like recognizing that even though I feel that it looks like I'm in the dark, that I'm naturally born to expand and bloom.
I know.
But it doesn't feel like I'm blooming, or I can't bloom in the face of what I'm facing. But because I've had so many highs and lows, I sort of have become an expert on hoping.
That's awesome.
So
thank you, Sherry.
It's just a thought.
It's beautiful. Well, and I think you could reach out and like, I'd like to talk with people about hope. Maybe people who've lost hope.
Yeah. Well, most of the people in this room are hopers.
Ah. Well, I appreciate that you putting it out there. Are you asking the people in this room?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, that's awesome. If anyone here is interested into, well, first of all, Irene is just a really awesome human to know. So if any of you have experience with thoughts about hope, make sure that you reach out to her before we sign off, and you can get her email and connect. I think Rachel connected with her before.
Thank you, Mom.
Other questions about conversation projects? A lot can happen in 7 minutes.
Right.
What's keeping you? Go ahead.
I'll jump in, Joanne. Sorry,
hi, Joanne.
I can't be on video.
Oh, I'm sorry. No worries.
So I guess, you know, I've certified as a coach, and I want to help women with autoimmune issues because that's what I've gone through. And I've been trying to do conversation projects without success. And, you know, I'm sort of slowly growing a following on social media, very slowly. And now in my own health journey, I've become very interested in nutrition because of a change I made that really impacted me dramatically. And so I'm going to a 10-month nutrition course. So now I feel like, oh, I don't know what my message is, because until I come out the other end of this course, like, I'm not really a health coach yet. And really what I want to do is integrate the mindset and the actual components of here's some things you can do to feel better. Because it seems like from the groups that people are in a lot of pain and they don't care about mindset, even though it's like a super critical point and reducing stress. They want to know, what can I do or take to feel better? I want a fix.
Yeah.
So I feel stuck in that. And I don't know if I'm just like telling myself that to avoid doing things. I don't think so. I just feel sort of unclear. Do I just proceed with the mindset stuff until I actually can integrate the other?
So, two thoughts. One, and this is hopefully helpful for all of you, the idea of like, I don't have a message. My thought is like, just share what you're learning. Just go reteach what you're learning. Go reteach what, you take a class, you learn something, go teach it.
Yeah.
Go say, I just learned this. Here's this cool new idea. That can be just what your intention is around sharing and shining your light. I think there's this, like, we have to have a message. You are the message. You're just be you, share what you're interested in, talk about the things that you're learning that you find. So, I mean, I have podcast episodes where I'm just talking about UMAP and why I love UMAP and strengths and values and like the tools that I use. And that is just material for you to, again, reteach what it is that you're learning. I think you're hitting on something very interesting. First of all, there are lots of different people out there. There are lots and lots of people who we think we know what they're saying. And I'd be curious, Joanne, and I don't know that we have the time today, but like this picture that I drew at the beginning of the call here. And this was in my notes, so I'm glad you asked this, but like this picture that I drew, that we as coaches are on this boat and we can do something, right? These sales are our certification. So right now you have a mindset sale. You're now going to get a nutrition sale. You have all these tools that you're going to use. You want to help people get from A to B, right? You want to help people who are struggling with one thing, who want to get to another thing. What I'm talking about in this call is like, instead, we tend to just sit on our boats and just wonder like, well, what do I do? What do I do? How do I do it? And how do I share? How do I talk about it? What do they need? And what we're talking about here is actually going and asking them, what is it you want? What is it you need? What you are hitting on, Joanne, is that people describe their symptoms. They're going to tell you their symptoms. They're going to say, I'm in pain. We can't change that for them. We can't say, well, no, you're not in pain. You need this, right? We tend to kind of stay in this place of having the diagnosis. Remember, their symptoms are different than your diagnosis.
Right.
And we tend to want to talk about our diagnosis. I don't think that's a problem. I talk all the time about why I think strengths and values are important. But guess what? I don't know a lot of people that are out there going, gosh, I really just want to know my strengths and values. Right. That's not what people are saying. They're saying, I don't know. I feel like I don't know how many different than that other coach out there, or I just don't have any confidence, or I don't know how I do things differently. Like lots of different things. So if we want to run our own gig, as I've been saying, we have to kind of meet in the middle. And I was talking to someone about this today. It's kind of like if you've ever had the experience of your shoulder hurts, my shoulder hurts, my shoulder hurts. So you go to some body worker, and the minute you walk in that door and they say your shoulder hurts, guess what? They know it's not your shoulder, but they don't tell you that. They don't say, it's not your shoulder. No. You're like, well, no, it is. My shoulder hurts, right? It's like they meet you where you're, oh, I get it. Yes. Let's do some work together. They do a whole assessment. They feel you out. At the end of it, they say, so I agree. I don't doubt that there's some pain there. I think this could be tied to something in your ankle though. They're meeting me where I'm at.
Right.
They're coming to me. They're staying in my world for a bit. And not just being like, it's not your shoulder. No. We got to do it this other way. So I'm phrasing it in this way just to, there is something, I hear what you're saying. And those people who are saying, just give me something to help with the pain. There is something to learn from them still. There is something there that I think is unearthed, that I believe we discover when we just kind of step off the boat onto the island and just say, tell me more about that. What have you tried before? What hasn't worked? What worked? And I suspect there are people that are like, if you said, so if I had a solution that took a little bit longer, but was more sustainable, you might find people be like, yeah, actually, I'd rather have something sustainable than quick. Right. It's the same with, I'm looking at other people who do work, and it's like people want quick fixes, but they don't really. Because they know. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful as I riffed on it a little bit.
Okay, great. Thank you.
What did you hear in it?
Well, I guess I hear what you're saying, and maybe it's that I'm not actually talking to enough people, and what I'm thinking about is the way that I post and what I'm posting about. And I keep getting told like I need to put out a call to action and so like have some sort of course. And I'm like, well, I don't know, how I can help these people. It feels sort of limiting at this point. And so maybe it's just my own mindset work that I need to do around what I have to offer at this point. Like I think, oh, I need that other certification to offer what I think, is needed.
I understand. You're not alone in that, Joanne. And I hope we have the chance to talk about this again. If you're, yes, Norris, we'll be talking soon. But I think you're onto something with maybe it's about talking to some more people, because you might find that the more people you talk to, the more answers to these questions emerge. Right. I'd like to ask really quick before we sign off today, please take a minute to share one more thought on the Jamboard. Candy and Joanne, I don't know if you saw, but what do you want to remember from today? What feels like it has had the most impact? What feels like it could lead to the most action? Everyone, if you would just take 30 seconds and pop in one more little note. What are you going to remember tomorrow? When you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh yeah, that thing I did yesterday. What do you think the one insight is going to be that you're like, oh yeah, pop it on a Post-it, please. Don't avoid talking to people by building a website. We do that. We are all just avoiding talking to people. But we don't need to, because they'll tell us everything we need to know. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Look at how beautiful it is. These Jamboards, I tell you what, they're special because of your willingness to add to them. This is going to help you. It's going to help others who couldn't be here. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Mavericks, conversation is just beginning. There's stuff you want to know. Bring all of this into Basecamp anytime. Post your asks. Don't sit on your ask. Bring these to open coaching calls. I will help you set up conversation projects. I will help you if you do a conversation project and you're like, now what? Abby, did you have a question? Okay.
I was just doing a weird hand stretch.
No, it's all right. It's good. Hand stretch. For those of you who aren't a Misfit to Maverick, thank you so much for being here. I hope this has been helpful. I hope it inspires you to run your own conversation project. If you are looking for a place, if you want continued support, come join us in Misfit to Maverick. You can find it on my website or at misfittomaverick.com. We would love to have you there. And I certainly would love to help you more directly with some of these kinds of projects. It's what we do. And at the very least, please let me know if you run your own conversation project and how it goes. You're all really awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. Hope it's been helpful. Karina, hope you're feeling better soon. And was really grateful to see those of you who I haven't seen in a while and to meet those of you I haven't met yet. Reach out anytime. Easy to find, everybody. Be well. Feel free to unmute on your way out because we're in a room together. And
thank you.
We're humans.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Allegra, so great to be here.
Maya, so happy to have you here. We'll talk to each other soon.
Yes.
All right. Be well.
Bye.